family. This is Latesha Higgs of the Inside the Chrysalis podcast with Latesha Higgs. So in the light of the suicide of Stephen Twitch Boss, we're going to have a special uh, show today in which we're going to talk about mental health in our men. So I want you to join us. This is live. I want you to join us because this is a very important segment. We'll be right back after this. Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Chrysalis with your host Latesha Higgs. That's me. Inside the Chrysalis is a platform, a podcast. This podcast is a platform for those who are managing mental health conditions. What we're trying to do is to erase the stigma associated with mental health by sharing the lived experiences of those managing and thriving with a mental health condition. We want to share the success stories. But as I mentioned earlier, today this is a special episode, and I wanted to make sure that I had a male on here, a male that can give his view and his expertise on what Black men are, why Black men may struggle with trying to get the help and support that they need, as it relates to mental health. So I want to introduce, or you guys, y'all should know him because he's been on here before, Mr. Wendell Fields. How you say, Mr. Fields?
Wendell Fields. Oh, God. Boy, that thing gets me, y'all, every time I say it.
Why? I see. All right.
Boy, that's a good name. That's a good name. That's a good name, boy.
Well, I'm glad that you joined us. If you guys have not already known, he is an author and he is a NAMI and our own voice presenter. NAMI is one of those organizations that we talk about all the time on the show. It's a great support, a great resource for you to use. Now, NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And Mr. Wendell Fields is no stranger to sharing his story as it relates to mental health. So, as I said earlier, the news about Stephen Twitch Boss. This is Ellen DeGeneres, DJ, the DJ on her show. This was like, I feel like the news of his suicide really hit a lot of people. And then what's sad is that right after, a few days later, another influencer, a female, died by suicide as well. And so I really wanted to talk about this because most of you know I lost my only brother to suicide when he was 14 years old. I still have family members that don't want to talk about it. And it's like, even now, today, they still don't want to talk about it. And it's like, it's a serious thing. You can help save somebody's life if you begin to talk. And so this is why I wanted to do this show today. But Mr. Fields,
yes, ma'am.
Let's first start off by, what was going through your mind as a Black man when you hear another Black man was just done? And I know that you shared your story before about when you had suicide attempt. So, before you share that story for those of our audience members who have not heard it yet, what were like the thoughts that were going through your mind when you heard this Black man was just done and he died by suicide?
Well, my heart broke, to tell you the truth. I was like, no, not Twitch. He the man of the hour. He celebrates, he claps, he does his thing, and he's the best at what he does. And I was like, but what's going on? Why? With 24 hours before then, you saw the brother man clapping, doing his thing, and the family was going through, and it was like, what in the world happened in between that cheerful time and that later time when we find out that because of finances, he took his life? Because there's not enough of it, or we get involved into the point. Now, I know about that. because that's how my story goes into, because of all things. Now I've had some other things that went on, that trauma that goes on, those aces that goes on in a person's life. Yeah, they came up. And the best thing I can tell you is, for me, I can't say for Twitch, but I know for me, was that sense of a loss of security in my finances. And what do I
Mm.
mean? Of all things, I had it up to here, and it ends up that because I got an arrears. What is an arrears, ladies and gentlemen? Arrears meaning that I owed back child support. And guess what? It was falsely done.
Wait a
Felt
minute. Let me stop right here. So the mother of your children or child,
child.
the mother of your child, she falsely took you to court for child support,
That is
or the
correct.
courts messed up?
The courts messed up because now she reported that I hadn't been paying child support. And so they took it upon her word that I hadn't. So
Mm.
in that, they I got a notice in the mail. And I got up there and I'm like, what's this? This child support thing. I already got it established. My job takes care of it. They automatically take the money out of my check. So I don't have to worry about that. But what was going on was the beginning of it. And therefore, she told me, Wendell, I don't know if your job is going to take the money out. Can you please give me the child support payment now? And I was like, yeah, because child support was something new for me.
Mhm.
And it ends up that not only did I pay her once, I paid her twice that way. And you all keep your receipts. Do not hand somebody in cash. Or if you do, man, get a receipt. Have them to sign off, keep that, take a picture of it, do whatever you need to do to cover yourself. And in that, you all, I had it up to here because I gone through a divorce. The ministry was all messed up that I was joined in. The job I was getting ridden up on, the trauma of being molested, all these other things were going on that in my past now, and they all accumulated at that moment, at that time, because I had enough, and I wanted to get out of that pain, that emotional pain that I was going through, that mental pain I was going. I was like, man, my money is funny, and I can't do this, I can't do that, and I'm not seeing my son, at least I could be a good father, at least I can see my, and those things I felt was taken away from me, and I was like, I'm good for nothing.
And not to cut you off, but it's sad because I've heard of a lot of men that really want to be there in their child's life, want to help them out, want to do what they're supposed to do. But because the mom has whatever issue she may have with the father, she makes it difficult. And it's just like, you're not hurt at the end of the day. Even if you're hurting that man, who you're hurting more than anything is that child. And it's
Yeah,
like, you can't tell me you possibly love your child if you're allowing your child to be hurt. You're doing things to hurt your child because so that you can get back at the father. You know what I mean? That's not love. That's not love. You cannot tell me you love your child just so that and you're doing things to get hurt the father and to get back at the father, because in the end you're hurting that child.
yeah.
It's sad.
Yes, yes, and so now I can smile about it now, because see, it took a act of God to come in and start changing my mindset as well as my heart, and I'm telling you, my spiritual growth has been so strengthened by this incident, um, and it led me to saying that I need help. And in that, you all, when we talk about going to go get help, I'm talking about being vulnerable about my condition, being vulnerable about what's going on in my head. Because in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not good enough. I'm not good
Mhm.
enough for this. I'm not good enough for that. And then, it affects how my behaviors and action is. So what do? I eat. I'm that emotional eater. And then the next thing you know, I'm gaining weight. And it's like that weight puts hardship on me physically, but also you get discriminated against. How many times have you gone to someone, they say, "Oh, you looking good." And I say, "Yeah." She say, "You look like you gained a couple of pounds there." What they trying to say is that I'm fat. I know what they trying to say. And
Mhm.
in that, it's sort of like, man. And then when I don't eat, I get skinny and looking sort of frail and everything. So what is it that you want, the fat boy or do you want the skinny boy? Which
Mhm.
one you want? And it's like that body shaming for males.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I don't think I wonder if society or women realize that body shaming is not just between women. We're not just body shaming women, we also body shame men as well. So tell me about, like, so you started talking about what led to the suicide ideations. Can you give us that story of
Okay.
when, because that's an amazing story of how God just turned it around so you wouldn't get hurt. But that story, that day of
That
when you actually followed through with your thoughts.
so for me, you got to understand that when we talk about weight, it's serious for me because at the time of my birth, I only weighed 2 pounds and 10 ounces, and that means that look, you got ground beef. That's about a 2 pound right there that I could fit inside of a baseball cap, my whole body
Mhm.
from head to toe. And in that, I was making my mom sick, ladies and gentlemen. She had eclampsia. No, she didn't have the clamps. No, she had eclampsia, which is a medical condition in which that blood pressure is so high that the person starts to have seizures. They are incontinent. They lose consciousness. They have all these things going on. So my mom was trying to have me, and she couldn't have me. The doctor ended up going to my grandmother saying, "Hey, who do you want to live? Your
Mm.
grandbaby or your daughter?" Because literally, I was taking my mom out. And
Wow.
by a woman of faith, my grandmother said, "Both shall live." And that's what happened. I came out, but the birth was very difficult for my mom. I got stuck in the birth canal. And so they had to push me back in the birth canal into the womb, make a C-section, and I came out that way. So, I put my mom through some physical trauma, and that physical trauma was affecting me also. And so here it is. I get born. They put me immediate in an incubator. And guess what they do when you are in an incubator? They got to touch you, poke you, probe you all throughout the night, days. I was there for a while until they could like nurse me to health, nurse me to size. And then I was released into my parents' care. And let me tell you, it was like, ha, 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 staying alive, staying alive, ha, 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 staying alive. Ha, ha. Woo! You see that, brother, man? He was eating everything, boy. Oh, yeah. Ice cream cake, ice cream. I mean, the whole shebang. I mean, birthdays. The joy was there, you all. Woo, what you say? And the hugs, the kisses, the affection. Oh yeah. Can you see that, brother, man, coming home and boy just staying alive? And the hug, man, it was great until life went on. And I was introduced to molestation by a man. and a woman.
Oh,
And I'm telling you, the mindset of a child, you mess up people's mindsets when you molest them. In this, I'm thinking that I don't have any control. Who will believe me as I'm growing up? These things are going on. What am I good for? Am I only good for sex or to do those things sexually with someone, whether they be male or female?
so those were the things, that was going through your mind the day that you acted on those suicide, that suicide attempt.
It's accumulating of I'm not good.
Good enough. Right. And it makes me wonder, what are, some of the final thoughts. And that's why I wanted you to share that story. Like, what are some of the final thoughts that's going through someone's mind before they die? They bring, they die by suicide. I know with my brother, one of the things that I've learned is that, people, and when I tried, I had my own suicide attempts.
Okay.
People, when you're going through that, it's not that you really, it's for me, and others that I've known that have gone through suicide attempts or suicide, have had suicidations. It's not so much as I don't want to be here. It's more of, I just want the pain to end.
Right, right,
I just
right.
want the pain to end. And this is the only way that I can think of. Now I understand, after getting the help that I needed. Now I understand that suicide is just a permanent fix to a temporary problem, because it gets better.
Yes.
It gets better. So take us back to that actual day when you attempted.
That day, I remembered I planned it out to get hit by a train. And in that,
Woo!
um,
You were
it was
trying
a
to go
train
real
that
violent.
uh,
Woo!
it ended up that by this particular place, there's a train that comes constantly on time at that moment, at that morning. And in my mind, I was like, I'm no good. I'm a sorry father. The financial pressures, that loss of financial security because of the arrears, and seeing how much I owed and not understanding how can I owe that when I've given the money. um I've done my part. Why y'all coming at me like this? I'm no good. um what was the other thought I had? My mind was constantly on how I just wasn't good. I was a bad man in the eyes of that particular person. And I would just remember, I just wanted it to end. When you wake up feeling like you're nothing, when you go to bed, you feeling like you're nothing. Although you're doing incredible things, I was working with the state of Georgia, helping out clients and everything. And I still felt like I wasn't good enough, even then. And I just remember, I want this to end. I felt alone. I felt lonely. I felt guilt. I felt shame. And I felt like I could not tell anybody because my pride came in, the stigma came in, self
Mm.
stigmatization comes in. And I'm just like telling you, all those things just kept going. It's like you play the record over again, or you hit the rewind button over again, and each day it's a different level, it's a different intensity, it's a different frequency of the thoughts, the feelings, and all. And I just want to end it. And I'm just like, I was dreadful because I'm like, my financial freedom is gone because of what this person has said or done. I can't make it. I can't take it no more. And I'm like, if that's what they want, money, I got you covered. Insurance policy is there, and it's a lot of it. So why not just take my life so that at least they'll have a number of coins and nickels that will possibly make them happy, and I don't have to worry about their life anymore being at least troubled or, you know, underprivileged or whatever. You know, it was just like those were the thoughts and feelings I was having, and that emotional dread, that emotional drain, that mental drain, that physical drain. How many times am I going to pray to God that He helps me with this? And for some reason, I myself am not following through. It's tiring. It's this battle that goes on and on and on. And I'm like, you all, it's a terrible feeling when you're hopeless and when you feel helpless. And no matter what you do, it's doggone if I do, doggone if I don't. And that continuous going over and over and let's play it again. Or and my thoughts are just repeating all the negative, all the bad.
So take us to that day. Take us to that day. What exactly happened?
So that day, I remember getting up. I put on clean clothes, shower, the whole thing, shave, and I remember leaving out. And the train, I know is coming, and I can't remember the specific date, but I know that it was a little bit cold, and I'm going up that road, and I already had saw the train because, like I said, this train is always on time. And I remember driving up that particular road, and I was waiting. I was waiting, in fact, by a church that was there by that railroad. And I remember pulling to the side and waiting on that particular train to come up. And as I'm driving and it's getting there, I was timing it just right. So when it hit me T-bone style, I would be dead because that train was coming full force. And I remember hearing the bomb, bomb, and you know the warning horn and all of that. The arms were flashing, but they hadn't came down yet. And it ends up that as I'm driving, because the train is coming closer now, I'm driving, and it was like I'm looking to make sure I time it right. And I remember, as plain as I'm talking to you, a voice saying, "Your son." And I was like, that's who I'm doing this for. You know, I don't have to worry about money anymore, this, that, and the other. And again, the voice said to me, "Your son." And I remember crying now. I'm crying as I'm getting closer and all of this. And I remember letting go of the steering wheel. And I don't know if I hit a bump that was there, rock. I don't know what it was, but all I can tell you is this: the wheel, instead of turning to my right, it turned to my left. And in that, I veered away from from the train, and spun, went and hit. There's a tree and there's a light pole that's in between there. And I remember hitting the light, the power pole, and I sat there and I cried like a baby because I didn't complete the thing, but yet with me being alive, that's when I said I needed help, and I'm boohooing, crying, and I'm just feeling like, who can I really talk to about this?
So I I want to pause right here before I go back to your story. I know we have this suicide prevention lifeline, but there's another line that we're going to put up instead of that because it's a new number now. We have something called 988.
Yep,
So
yep.
you are experiencing a mental health crisis. I know you're used to seeing the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's a new number, so we want to have that changed in just a second. But that number is 988. So if you're experiencing any type of mental health crisis or suicide ideations or thoughts like that, please dial that number. Please dial 988. So let's go back to, you said you just wanted someone to talk to. I know somebody had it's I know somebody had recently put a statement or a comment in our on our feed about, mental health is real, and make Twitch possibly did not kill himself. We don't know. This is what we were told. We're going by what we were told, and even if that is not correct or whatever, this still needs to be talked about because there's too many people dying by suicide. There's too many Black men feeling like there's no one that's there to be able to talk to. So, whether or not the media was telling us the truth or not, it's still a conversation that needs to be had. And so I want to go back to something that you said earlier. And before I get, remember, it is not necessarily a new mental health number. I know our producer put that on there. It is a lifeline. So just if you could just put in 988. but uh but what I wanted to say is you said something about feeling vulnerable. You know, how important is it for men to be able to feel vulnerable with their significant other, to have, and how can that help them? How can that significant other and be in that safe place for them help
Mm.
them to go get the help that they need? Because women, we're going to talk, a lot of us, if we're, for the most part, we're going to talk about what's going through with us, with our friends, at least with our friends. We're going to talk about it, and I understand as a female, it's important for me to feel vulnerable, be able to feel vulnerable and be around my, feel like I can be able to open up around my friends and tell them what's going on. But how easy is that for a man to do with his boys, his friends? And then, and why is that so important and needed in a male, from the male's perspective?
Well, it's hard for men to express, share, be open and honest and transparent because we have so many expectations on our lives. And sometimes it's unrealistic expectation. I remember seeing a cartoon of a woman and supposedly her child, and he was crying. And she was like, "Stop all that crying. Man up. You got to be a man. You can't show your emotions. Stop all that crying." So then the next picture was of that same boy being a grown person, and he was with his lady friend or wife, and she's like, "Why you don't share anything? Why you not talking? Why, you're not emotionally available to me? What's going on?" And it's like, could it be that some, not all, because of the upbringing that we go through, of being that tough, gotta be tough? I remember, now don't you laugh at this. I got hit in the head by a plastic bowling pin that was in the pool that filled up with water. And we were throwing them up in the air and, duck and dodge and all of that. Well, I threw it up in the air and it came back down because of the weight that was in it with the water. It went down further than expected. And guess what? I have a scar in the back of my head that I can still feel from it. And I'm crying. At the time, we didn't know that it was my head was busted and
Mm.
that it was bleeding because I was in the water. And my dad, they were playing cards and all of that by the pool. And my dad told me, "Stop all that noise, boy. Face it like a man. Take it." And in that, I'm sucking up. And he's like, "Shut up." And I remember just, can you imagine a child at that time, but somewhat doing the same thing now as a man because of what society and culture is saying? What is culture? Talk to me about culture. Why is culture so important now in these days? Because back then it was a culture too. But why is it so important now about the culture that we live in? Can you answer me that one? Can you? The
Why
audience.
is
Yeah.
why is the culture so important now?
Yeah.
The culture, our culture influences, the way we interact with each other, the way we interact in a society. It influences, is part of our belief systems and things like that. And so, if our culture, is part of a part of our culture is also our set of beliefs. you know what is that saying about us as how we feel about men when we're saying that in our culture we're telling them they can't cry, they
Mm,
can't be vulnerable.
mm,
So how can a female be that safe space? There's a scripture, Proverbs 31 talks about, it talks about the Proverbs 31 woman.
mm-hmm.
Growing up, I've always heard a lot of women saying they aspire to be that Proverbs 31 woman. It's a lot of work. For first and foremost, she was the Wonder Woman of her day. Okay, to be that was a lot. But there's a part in there in Proverbs 31 that describes that woman that says, the heart of her husband
Husband, trust.
safely trusts in her. It's
Yeah.
hard, you know, trust in her. That means for him to do that, she had to create a safe space
Ooh.
and had to
Ooh.
be allow him to be vulnerable so that he can trust in her to go to her. And it's just like, I'm looking at the rate of divorce now, and I'm a divorcee as well.
Ding.
But my ex-husband and I, we're good friends now. Like, we're really good friends. We had some other things going on, but we're really good friends now. But it's just like, how can women, because we're losing our men, to so many different things. And I don't think it's by chance. I
Mm.
think it's definitely by design. Not just, I think it's by, like the word of God says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood,
Flesh
but
and
of
blood.
principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places.
High
And
fly.
so I know it's by design, design, that we're losing our men so fast, that we're losing our men in the Black community to so many different things. And so it's like,
So,
whether it's be health, whether it's, the men not taking care of themselves as they should, or just, incarceration or whatever it is. And so it's just like, we as women, how do we create a safe space so that we can save, our men, the
well,
men,
what?
that we can save our men and support our men.
Now I'm thinking about Delilah and Samson. And Delilah was there. Now I understand about what she was doing as far as physically, but what did she provide him besides physically? She was there. She was
Listen.
lit. There you go. Listening. She provided a space for him to express himself without judgment. And that lowers the threshold of, can I trust you? You were just there. You weren't giving me advice. You weren't trying to tell me what to do. You was just there. And then guess what? Now, for a baby, the baby loves to be held, cuddled. Oh yeah, rocked back and forth and saying, "Oh, there. You fell down. Oh, come here, come here. It's okay. Yes, it is. You know you my you baby. Yes, you. Now, if a woman does that to a man, what is he going to do? He's going to lower that defense more and more because you're providing him what is spiritually needed, physically needed, mentally needed, emotionally needed. I don't have to perform for you.
Mm.
I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to come up with the solution. I can just be like, I don't know right now. I'm afraid about this. But then she can say, I hear you. I'll be afraid too. But what else is going on? Or just asking, how can I be a help to you right now? You're going through a lot. How can I help you out? You need me to run some bath water for you? Do you need that hot shot? Do you need that hot meal for you? I'm still right here for you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to support you, to lift you up, to just ride with you. You need to go in the car. Let's ride. Let's ride. Come on, let's go. Get
Yeah,
on the motorcycle.
you said it's so funny. You said that when I was married, my ex husband, he was a great man. He worked 3 jobs so that I can finish undergrad. And
Okay.
so one of the things that he did was he had one of his jobs, was a newspaper route. And so he
Mm,
would go in the middle of the night and deliver the newspaper. So what I did to show him, like I said, I he allowed me to quit work so that I can go to school full time. So what I did was I would get up early in the morning with him. Sometimes it'd be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, go to the plant, get the papers, bag the papers with him, and just sit
mm,
in the car in a route with him as he tossed them. You know what I mean? And for him, it was just like I was there and it showed him that I appreciated what he did. I wasn't just
mm.
home sleep.
Okay.
I wasn't just home sleep. I was on a route with him. And, I had my son, so I would take my son. My son was little, so he didn't have to go to school or anything. So we would just, sometimes we would take him, or we had his uncle used to stay with us. So
Okay.
his uncle would, watch my son while he was asleep. My son loved. We called him Uncle Eddie. My son loved himself some Uncle Eddie. But anyway, he stayed there. He would stay there and watch my son Elijah while I would go in the morning, early in the morning. We would go like 2, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, come back around about 6 or 7 o'clock. He may
Mm,
get like an hour of sleep and then get back up and go to his job at the bank because he was also a branch manager. So he would go and do
mm.
that. And so just being there showed him that I appreciated what he did. And
Yeah.
I think more we got to do more of that for our men and women. We're now I want to get back to the vulnerability with men and their friends. With my girlfriends, I know once I get to know them, I can I can be vulnerable with my girlfriends. I can tell them this is what I'm going on. This is what I got going on. I can tell them I'm not at my best right now. I need
Mm.
prayer. I just need to cry. But can a guy do that with his friends? I mean, do guys do that? Well, why not?
No,
Why?
why I'm gonna do? Why I'm gonna do that with the fella at the man who looking at me? Because see, we looking at one another, trying to boost one another up as far as this is how I think a man should be, and this is how I think a man should be. So we're vibing off of one another, still not knowing what it is to be a man. We think that society has taught us, and that goes to the culture, that a man is supposed to be strong at all times, cool and collected at all times. But you know what? That man has to worry about making that money to provide for his family, to be responsible for all his areas of responsibility. He has to get up there and he has to make the money. So in making the money, it's sort of like I can't show pain. I can't show my job that I have pain because I gotta make the money to make the bills, to make sure that the family is okay, to make sure that the house is running okay, and we got to keep on doing it. So I don't go to the doctor when I'm hurt because I still got to make that money. And if I show vulnerability that I'm in pain, that means that my family won't look up to me. It means that they're disappointed in me and that I'm sorry as a man, as to be called a man. I'm sorry. So I can't do that vulnerability of pain. I can't sleep good because once again, it's vulnerability. When I don't get rest mentally, I'm in shambles, you all. I can't focus. I'm unable to concentrate. I'm not able to do things well because of lack of sleep. But see, I got to work to make the money. I got to keep going because I got a whole lot of responsibility on me.
It's so, and it took for me my son is 25.
Okay.
And it took for me to experience something with him to finally get that part, which you were saying, how for men providing is so important. And I remember reading, you know how Steve Harvey had that book called Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. And he
Uh-huh.
talked about how men providing was so important, but it didn't click until I moved down here. And when I moved down here, I still own my home back in Baltimore. And my son was renting it out along with two other young men that he was the same age. So I had 20 somethings renting out my home.
Okay.
Now my son was working and going to school. I had no idea that my son was barely eating just so he can help pay the rent. Until one day he was just like, he was going through some things and he said, "Ma, I can't take it anymore." So, me being a mother that I am, I'm hearing that and I'm freaking out because, the last gentleman I heard say, "I can't take it anymore," was my brother, and he died by suicide. So,
Mm.
I'm freaking out, right? So, my son, like back to back things were happening to him, right? Back to back things were happening to him. So when my son calls me and he tells me this and we having a conversation, it was 5 o'clock, no lie, 5 o'clock Saturday. I was tired. I had just got out of an all day class. I had class from 9 a.m.
Mm.
to 5. So it was like 5:30, about
Mm.
5:36 o'clock. My son told me he couldn't take it anymore. So I got on that road and I
Ooh.
drove 10 hours to Baltimore
Ooh.
to check on my baby. My baby said, "Mom, I'm just ready." So we packed up whatever we could pack up in my truck and we moved him down here. And when I saw him, I was like, he looked skinny. Like he was just really, really skinny. And I knew something was wrong when I took him to go get something to eat.
Wow.
And when we went to go get something to eat, he couldn't even, how after a while, if you don't get enough to eat, your belly start, I guess it's shrink, or I don't know, call it shrink, but he couldn't finish the sandwich. And then I looked, and as a mother, I didn't want my son to see me break down, so I had to like still be strong for him. But that's when it clicked to me how serious it is for a man to want to provide. Why that is so serious. Because my son was literally starving himself so that he can pay the rent. And he never told me that he was going through these things. Because I would have been told him, "Listen, son, mama look, let me know. Like I'll load it, come down here something." But now, he eating me out of house and home now. So he moved down here, but I'm proud of him because I told him, I said, I'm going to support you. And that was the next question. How do women support their sons? So like, that was the next thing. So when I got him down here, we made sure that he got back enrolled in school. He got a job. So he's working and he's going to school. But I told him, I said, rent free. You're when you get down here, you're rent free for at least a year. After a year, we'll talk about what you want to. Because when I think about it, this is what I had, and my son, it was so fun. My son and I had a conversation about this later. I know I'm going off the subject a little, but I have to say this. As black families, I hear this all the time. I even said it to my own child until I realized I needed to stop. When you getting 18, you leaving out my house.
Mm.
I would hear a lot of black families say that to their children. When you get 18, you leaving out. But we want to kick them out at 18, but we don't teach them how to budget.
Woo.
We don't teach them how to invest. We don't teach them how to do the things that they need to be able to survive on their own. Now, granted, I taught my son getting a check account, get a job, saving, but I didn't teach him those things that he really, really needed to know so that he could really sustain himself while I was down here. So therefore, in turn, he was starving himself so he could pay the rent. And I had no idea. And so when I said to myself, I'm not, no, because other cultures, they allow their children to stay with them until their children finds a house and then moves into that house. We need to start setting our children up the same way. And
So what I hear you saying is that we got to educate our children about resilience, what it means to be responsible in the household, outside of the household, and tell them this is not something to be played around with. This is something to give you a foundation so that you don't have to go through what I went through. Right. And help them to understand the importance of a dime, a nickel, the importance of budgeting, the importance of cleaning your house, washing your drawers, and doing some other things that will help them to be successful for generations to come. It's just not to get it quick and fast in a hurry. It's more like teaching someone how to fish. You use this type of bait. You use that type of lure. You when the water is rough like this, you want to do it like this. When the water is gentle like this, you want to do it like this. You're teaching the generation on how to survive and not providing them with the popcorn answer or the popcorn item to help them to just get it like that.
Yes, we have to do that. We have to, like, we can't just be like, oh, you getting out of my house at 18 and you don't show them any way of how to live.
What is the age range to teach for 10 to 24 to 34? The suicide rate for Georgia.
Yes. Well, I know nationally the suicide rate for young people. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people, ages 14, I think, to 24.
Come on. Do you know anything? Did you know a whole lot at 24?
No. Now, granted, I was a young mother and I was still trying to figure it out. But
yes,
I
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know a whole lot. I still try to figure things out. You know what I mean? And it's just sad. I mean, like, we got it. We can't just put our children out there and not give them a foundation, like you said. And like, so going back to what I wanted to ask earlier. So there's a lot of Black single women, how can we help our sons? How can we provide a safe space for our sons? My son I thank God that I tell people all the time, my son is my best friend. I say that now, not when he was a child, because you're not best friend with your children, when they're children. But now that he's older, he's my best friend. Now, we have that relationship where, yes, he's like my best friend, but he also sees me as his mom. Wow. So he doesn't cross that boundary. You know what I mean? But I love my son. And so I personally needed to create a safe space where my son comes and talks to me. And we can talk about so many things. And I love it. I love it. So how do women, other women, give us some advice? I can tell women what I do, but I want to hear from a man. How can a mother create a safe space for her son? And I know there are some women out there that may have sons in that age group where suicide, is the second leading cause of death. And a lot of people don't know that rate, even though it doesn't happen as often in Black communities as in other communities, but the rate is still growing. It's growing. It's going up.
Mm-hmm.
So we we got to do something so that we can bring that rate down and eliminate it. But what can women do to be able to help their babies, their sons, within that age group, and feel like they can create, feel that safe space so that their son can feel vulnerable and talk to them?
One thing that I myself have done is this. My son is now 17 years old. When the time that I was contemplating and trying to take my life, he was 3 years old. And in this now, with me and my struggle, I myself had to learn me. And what that means is that I had to still learn about who I was, what I was about, forming my values, forming my plans and things to get me better. And when the Lord told me your son, I really didn't understand because I was only looking at it from a financial point. This year, my son was in a terrible accident. He was at the gym, unsupervised, and he was doing squats on the Smith Climb machine. He was able to go down. He wanted to reach his highest, best, but nobody wasn't there to supervise him with that. As a result, he went back up and he could not hook the thing back onto the Smith Klein hooks, which keeps stuff steady. And it started falling and he was going back and he was trying to run to not get hit by it, where it hit him on his back. He could not move, ladies and gentlemen. He was paralyzed at that moment, at that time. He had to go into emergency spinal surgery. His L1, L2 lumbar region was messed up, jacked up, bone fragments. He got that operation. I'm coming to your point. He was laying in that bed, you all, and he was in so much pain. And it wasn't time for any medications or anything. And he started crying. His mom wasn't there at the time, but I was there. And this is like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And my son said, Dad, I don't want to live no more. I can't take the pain. I want to die. I got him there. I never wanted my son next. I never wanted my son to experience anything like that. That would want him to die. And Lord knows I try to protect him. But at that time, you know what I did? All I could do was grab my son's head, hug him, cry with him, and pray. I didn't want my son to experience any disability or anything. And here it is, a physical disability occurs. And here it is that he wants to take his life because of it. And I was just there with him, y'all. That's all I could do at that time. And tell him how I still loved him, how I still understood that he wanted that pain to end. But I wasn't going to leave him by himself. I'm right here. Your dad right here. Your daddy is here. I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through, son. But I'm here.
My God.
I tell you, I tell you, we cried for a long time that day. We cried for over 2 hours because he was still in pain and I was still praying. And after 2 and some odd hours passed, he got through that pain. And he looks at me and he says, Dad, thank you for being there with me as I went through this, because I don't know if I would have made it if you weren't here. Y'all, that's why God said you're a son when I was trying to take my life.
Jesus.
And I'm like, you all, from that moment on, my son was so open with me, so vulnerable with me about any and everything. It has caused our relationship to grow so much. But I had to just be there.
That's
I
whoo,
just had
Jesus.
to just be there for him. Let him go through it, but be there for him. And it opened up the doors of trust, vulnerability, bravery. He shares any and everything with me. You all, that's the best gift that you can give your loved one.
Just being there.
Just being there. Let them express themselves the way they want to express. Don't hold them against them. And then you'll be able to gently guide them to resiliency. And it helps them to build resiliency in their way, but yet you provided them, let's say, some ground rules for doing that. We want to learn as human beings responsibility, but you have to allow that person, yes, to bump their head sometimes, but still being there to help them to achieve independence, stability, healthy stability. Just being there. I thank y'all. That's the that's the first time I somewhat like shared in that manner, that way, about my son and what was going on. So I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share, not just with you, but with your audience, that story, because it's helping me to heal. And in that vulnerability, it's helping me to be more open and honest about the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, and everything, because Lord knows I love my son and that I don't want anything bad to happen. But yet, when it does, what will he fall on to? Is he going to use the drugs, the alcohol? Is he going to use the sex and misuse the woman or the man or whatever, because he's trying to fill an emotional void? You got to be there. And I was too chicken hearted to somewhat talk about my molestation to my parents. It was a shh thing. And the more secrets you keep, the more it's going to take you to the grave quicker than usual.
Mm.
Open,
Oh, there's something. You said something right there. Mm. Mr.
open up.
Yes, Mr. Fields, thank you so much for sharing. It's that part right there about being there. You know, when I think about my brother and our last conversation, he didn't feel like he had anybody there. I remember he told me what he was going to do, and he told me why. And it centered around just feeling like nobody was there. Nobody would listen. And that's what we have to do. We have to be able to listen without judgment. You may not agree with everything that that person, your child say or anything like that, but sometimes it's not the time to correct them. Sometimes just listen. Just listen. And I do this thing with my students and my son, and now they tell me everything. When I see something wrong, I say, what's is everything okay? No, I'm all right. Like I tell them, I said, okay, I know something is wrong. You don't have to tell me. You can tell me later, or you can talk about it with someone else. If they tell me they want to talk about it with somebody else, whether it's my son or my students, I don't get upset. They say they want to talk about it later, I don't get upset. They don't want to talk about it at all. Okay. But do know when you're ready, I'm here. I don't want you to hold that in. And they eventually come to me or ask me to go to send them to someone else. But just being that listening part. I know NAMI had something not too long ago. It was it last year or a couple of years ago. The was it the initiative I Will Listen campaign or initiative? Do you remember?
Mm. I don't remember, but I heard about it. I did hear about it. I can't remember everything that went on with it, but I heard about it. That
Yeah.
when you talk about listening, and I don't want to do it, put it this way: listening, you all saved my life. I was able to listen to Kevin Hines, who related his story about survival, and listening to him. And when I went up, because I was crying and everything, I told him he saved my life because at that time I was thinking about taking my life again, but I was still chicken hearted. The vulnerability and the listening came when Kevin Hines opened the door because he related his story, wanted to take his life. My supervisor noticed behaviors and actions that I was doing. And she said, Wendell, what's going on? Your work performance has gone down. And I said, this is a chance for me to tell her the truth, or I can lie and say everything is okay. Do you not know I chose to tell her the truth, and she listened to me
Mm,
non-judgmentally.
mm.
In fact, she got up there and she said, Wendell, I believe you're depressed and I think you need help. We will go to the doctor. I'll take you. And I was like, it's not no workman's comp type of situation. And she was willing to take me to the doctor to be seen to get help. I told her, no, I'm going to go on my own. She said, bring me a work excuse to let me know that you really did it. So I went. The second thing when it comes to listening, the doctor at the place that I went to, Dr. Thurman, black man. My supervisor was a black woman. Kevin Hines is black mixed with other stuff. That black doctor listened to me. He let me pour everything out, and he didn't judge me one bit. And he said, Mr. Fields, I would love to help you, and I want to help you. Would you allow me to help you? He gave
Wow.
the power back to me. He gave
Wow.
the power back to me to make the choice. And I said, yes. I've been on the same medication for over now, it's near 6 years now. and I'm doing spectacular because I told them I was afraid of what the medication did. I've seen other people. I saw my mom on medication because my mom had bipolar disorder, and I saw what it did, and it made me fearful to talk to a doctor about it. But let me tell you, ever since that day, 6 years ago, I can concentrate, I can focus, I can hold my emotions in line, become the things that we've been talking about, male should be, could be. I'm doing that plus more because I'm taking it seriously. My
Mm,
mental health, my
yes.
physical health, my spiritual health, my financial health. I'm in fact, it's going so well. I became a coach, a life coach, because I was getting my stuff together and seeing how I want to help others. So you got life coach, you got suicide prevention and awareness things that's going on. I mean, you got
So you're
NAMI.
doing it big. And tell them about your book too. Tell them
Man,
about your book.
y'all, I teamed up with Vanessa Abe. Y'all, she got up there. She had this book that we made an anthology. It's called "There Is No Health Without Mental Health." Men and mental health. Let's talk about it. Do you know it became a bestseller on Amazon? I mean, things started opening up in a movie with Kevin Hines called Suicide, the ripple effect, and how that you can change a negative into a positive, and it makes the ripples in the water. Look, y'all, God is so good, but he kept on saying your son. But what about the son or the daughter that is looking at this particular episode and it's helping them with some decisions that they need to make?
Mm-hmm.
Letitia, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Indy, come on now. Audience, come on now. We can do this. And it's that change in that chrysalis. It's that change of mind, the change of
Mm-hmm.
attitude, the change in the actions and behaviors, how we respond to stuff. Those things are coming into a realistic view that's helping people to think about some things a little bit more harder. So when he has to worry about working and providing, he can't show the pain, he can't sleep, he can't sometimes eat. He has to develop the skills more than others so that he can get the promotion to continue to make the money and that whole rigmarole. When he does that, he's really taking his life away from him that he could truly have.
Okay.
Women, be there. Be there for your children. Be there for your husband, for your wife. Just being there means something. Holding that hand and just saying, I'm here with you. I don't know what all to do, but I'm here with you. I'm sorry that you heard. Can we explore this thing together? How about that?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's
Wow.
that's what
Yeah.
my
So
dad did. My dad was a smoker and a drinker. He said, "Hey, if you stop sucking your thumb, I'll stop drinking and smoking cigarettes." And we did that thing together. And I haven't sucked my thumbs. I mean, I was about 14 sucking my thumb. But my dad and I went in that pact and we did that thing together. Please don't, please don't shut your people out.
yeah,
Listen
there was
to
a there. I'm sorry. There was a question, and I'm looking at the time. I'm like, "Woo, this time went by fast." So the question is basically, how can we help our adult male loved ones to open up to the idea of taking that step to accept help from professionals? And I think you know, and you can touch on this if you want, but what I heard from you is for you to open up someone first had to open up the door for you to be able to talk to. They had to listen. And it wasn't a loved one. It was just a woman at your job. It was a woman at your job, your supervisor. And she was just there. So I believe it just starting with just there, and you just constantly having that relationship, constantly being there for them to for them to talk, and you listening without judgment. And then what she did was, after she gained your trust and then took it a step further and say, I will go with you. That sound like the steps. I mean, would you agree that that's part of the steps in helping someone to get the help? Just being there, creating that safe space for them to talk to you, and then finally say, you know what, this is what I see. I will help you. I will go with you to get the help that you need.
Hey, even to the point of this, hey, calling the Georgia Crisis and Access line. Hey, I got a situation, but see, you got to gain their trust. Hey, I don't want to do this by myself. Is it okay if you and I get on the phone and we call somebody? Hey, calling the crisis hotline and getting some supports, getting some resources. Hey, how about we write them down as they give it to us? Hey, are you feeling that bad that you might need someone to come face to face? I'm still gonna be here with you. I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And doing that and getting that information, joining them, I'm telling you, it will build your relationship with them. My son, I'm telling you, that's what happened. He
Mm-hmm.
opened up.
I'm looking up this. I got trained in this. You know how they had something called CP. You know what CPR is, right?
Yes,
Well,
QPR.
yep. You know where I was going. So
Hey,
that's another resource that you can use. Even though that person may not be suicidal, you can still learn QPR, which was question,
persuade and
persuade, and
refer.
refer. Yes, I forget sometimes. Question, persuade, and refer. If you learn, and there's way you can get trained online and get your certificate in like an hour.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to learn how to help others. To get the help that they need. And I wish I knew about QPR with my brother. I'm telling you, because I definitely would have done things differently. Because the first thing I said was, we just gotta pray about it.
Mm. See, it's beyond that. I mean, some good things. You talking about QPR, you talking about youth mental health first aid.
First aid, yes, that's another resource. I don't know who that person was, but youth mental health first aid. They have adult, because I was trained in both adult mental health first aid as well as youth mental health first aid,
And,
as well as QPR.
and what is
Those
one of the attendants? Listening.
listening, that
Listening.
and they say that
Listening.
in all of the trainings.
Yes.
The key is just listening, just being there, just being there. And I think it's not understood enough how
Correct.
listening without trying to give a response. Just be quiet, just listen. And you don't have to give a response. Sometimes people that's going through things, they don't want to hear your response. I know
Right.
I didn't. I
Right.
just wanted you to listen.
Right.
But QPR is a great way for that person that had wrote that question. It's a great way to learn how to be
Mm-hmm.
able to help others. I know it's mostly dealing with suicide prevention, but those are some great steps in order to help just anybody that's dealing with a mental health crisis or just going through mental health,
Mm-hmm.
situations at the time. So I would still highly recommend QPR. Get trained on that. So that you'll learn how to be able to assist your loved ones and anyone else that you see may need. NAMI has great resources. I'm
Say
going
it
to
right.
also.
Say it one more again, girl.
Yes,
Say
yes.
it
I'm
one more
also.
again.
I'm on. You know what? Mr. Fields. Not only am I in our own voice presenter, but I finally got trained for the Sharing Hope, and I also got trained for the to facilitate a peer to peer. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. So
Girl, we even got the how we speak to law enforcement. Share your story with
yes,
law enforcement with
yes,
NAMI. I mean, they got so many. You all, please access NAMI.org. It will blow
yes.
your mind. It will help you out. It will educate you. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Be in my hey, the other just quit the other trainings. Hey, you got QPR, you got youth mental health. Also, you got CALM, counseling on access to lethal means. It's going to give you time and distance training. Okay. And it's a new one called Connect. Post mention for those suicide people who are survivors of that. I got trained in all of them, certified in all of them.
I'm
Hey,
gonna have that's my next one. That's my
hey,
next
hey,
one.
hey,
But
hey, hey.
QPR, once again, for those that's our viewers, is question, persuade,
Mm-hmm.
refer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple, very, very
Mm-hmm.
simple. Very simple to learn. And,
We
and
can
and it give you tips on what not to. That's the thing I love the most. The
yes.
thing what
You ain't
not
thinking
to
about
say.
suicide, are you? That's stupid.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, like what not to say. I love that. So those are that's good. Question, persuade, refer. This has been an amazing,
wow.
amazing
How y'all
episode.
gonna get me emotional like that? Got me crying, snot coming out my nose, and that ain't right. Y'all didn't
No,
do me.
look, I did my job. I created a safe space.
Oh, you got down. I give you
I
that.
created a
You got
safe
down.
space.
You got down. I give you that. I give you that. I give
So
you that.
before we close up, Mr. Fields, is there any some advice, anything that you want to leave our audience with?
Um, don't cave in. Don't give up. Don't quit. It does get better now. It does. But you're going to have to put some effort in that thing. You're going to have to grab the resources, the supports, and you're going to have to work that thing of recovery. Stop going around the bed of recovery and just get into the bed of recovery. Stop going around it. Get into it. That's where you'll find the comfort, the rest, the strength to keep on keeping on. So don't cave in, don't give up, don't quit, and stop going around recovery and get into it so you can reap the
Mm.
benefits. Okay. Hey, that's all I got for you. That's yeah.
Thank you. So if you have not done so already, please like and subscribe to our channel at Inside the Chrysalis Podcast. Yes, with your host, me, Latesha Higgs.
Ooh,
So
that's a
make sure
bad
you
woman right there. Bad woman.
if you
Don't mess with her now. Don't mess with her. She'll get
you
you.
something else. If you haven't already done so, please follow us on Instagram at Inside the Chrysalis Podcast. Also, you can follow me on my personal Instagram at Latesha Higgs. If you have a story that you would like to feature on our show, you can reach out to Inside the Chrysalis Podcast at gmail.com. And guess what, guys? I co-authored a book, Woman Entrepreneur Prayer. So go to my website, The Jade Chrysalis. You see it up in the corner? Go to The Jade Chrysalis to order your book. Yay!
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
So I'm so excited. And I also wrote the foreword to another book that's going to be coming out real soon. It's called All the Preacher's Wives. So make sure when that comes out, yes, there it is. Yes, I'm joining the author club. So make sure you get that. And as we close out this show, thank you so much. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, please make sure you dial 988 to get the support that you need. Also, you can go to NAMI.org, NAMI.org. And I want to send my deepest condolences to Twitch's family, Stephen Twitch Boss. I want to send my deepest condolences. My prayers go out to you and your and goes out to his family. My prayers go out to you all. I'm just keeping you uplifted in prayer. In Jesus' name. God, watch over them. Keep them, dear God. Send them comfort in the name of Jesus. Dear God, send them support. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for joining us on this special episode of Inside the Chrysalis Podcast with your host.
Call me. Talk to me sometime, girl. Call me. Talk to me.
I definitely will. Bye, everyone.
See y'all. Nice meeting you.